Hello, my name is Rachel, and I'm obsessed with velvet. So, Brian and I were out the other day. We went to like the botanical gardens and walked around. We went to some antique shops and looked around, and that's where I got in trouble. I found a vintage velvet coat. This is going to be a short video because I only have like one thing to show you. Well, two things, but one thing new to show you. But I found this vintage velvet coat, 1950s coat, for like $69. Nice. So we walked away from it. We went to the antique store next door, and I couldn't get it out of my head. So I went back and bought it, even though I don't need it. And why I don't need it is right behind me. You will see, and I'm going to do try-ons of the two coats, so you guys can compare them. But my mother bought me this gorgeous 1950s velvet coat years ago. And it's beautiful. But this is a cotton velvet. The new one I found was a silk velvet. So let me show you my new coat. And then we're going to try both of the coats on so you can compare and contrast. But they are very similar because they're both 1950s opera coats. So the shapes are very similar. This is the new coat. And look how bright, I hope it comes across on camera, but can you see how bright red this is? This is gorgeous. Gorgeous. And I am 90% certain that it's genuine silk velvet. I did a little bit of research, and there were synthetic fabrics, of course, in the 50s already, but most of the velvets were either a silk velvet or a rayon silk blend. But this one has it just has that luxe feel. It's just so incredibly soft. Like this one is a cotton velvet, and you know, it is actually cotton. But this one is silk velvet, and I'll show it to you here. It's beautiful. And it's like, I don't need two 1950s red velvet coats. They're both red. They're both like Christmassy red. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I don't need two. I now own two. And I looked up this brand because it has, you know, the brand label in here. And the interesting thing is this was actually a department store in Norfolk, which is only about 20 minutes from where I am now. It was a department store in Norfolk that opened like around the, 1900s, early 1900s. Like, at first I thought it was 1929, but then I was reading more, and it was actually, like, started earlier, but I think it became bigger in 1929. That's when, like, it was a giant department store, this huge department store down in Norfolk, and that closed in 1988. So it hasn't even been closed, like, super long, but still, it's been closed for a while. But yeah, so that's what the brand is. And then it has the, doesn't have a fabric content label, but it does have the garment union label for suits and coats. So this was made in the United States back when we did a lot of that type of manufacturing. And it has this lining, which could be silk, or it could be like a nylon. I'm not sure. Polyester was around, but I'm not sure if they were doing like the satin polyesters yet at that point. I really probably need to do a little bit more research, but I am still fairly confident that this is actually a silk, because like the underneath is like this fabricy. I forgot what that type of fabric is called, but it also has like a silk feel to it. But yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try both of these on for you guys so you can see the similarities and differences of my two 1950s velvet coats. I'll be right back. So here is the new one, the one I just purchased. It does have shallow pockets, and this one has 3 buttons down the front, where this one is more of that A-line style with the single button. It's possible, because this has the 3/4 length sleeves, this might be from the 60s. They did have it listed as a 50s coat, at the antique store. But I feel like the 3/4 length sleeves might have been a 60s thing. I need to do, like I said, I need to do some more research on it. I did a little bit, but I just didn't really do anything real in depth. But look how beautiful this is, though. It's still that kind of A-line shape. So it's still got that A-line shape to it, like this one does. But the collar is very different. It's got this collar right here, And this collar does feel 50s, but it could also be 60s. Like I said, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. If any of you are into vintage clothing, do you think this one is more 60s? And this one is definitely 50s. And we'll try that on here in a minute. But this one has this interesting detail of there is a kind of second sleeve, is the only way I can describe it, underneath the sleeve that has like an elastic to it. And then the more billowy sleeve over top, but I'm not exactly sure why that design feature would be there. It would make sense to me if it went all the way down, because that would kind of be a warmth thing. But all the way up here, I'm not sure exactly why they did a double sleeve like that, because it's short, but then it's got the elastic to tighten around your elbow, and then you've got the more belled 3/4 length sleeve there. But yeah, this is just a beautiful coat. It does have a little bit of crushing in it. That's something that does happen to real velvets. Like, I don't think that really happens so much to our stretch velvets that I feel like most stuff is made from these days. But when you have a real velvet, you get these crush spots where the velvet, gets crushed. And then there's also a thing called crushed velvet where it's purposefully crushed. But so you can see a few of those little shiny spots throughout where the velvet is crushed. I used to have this gorgeous, and it wasn't vintage, it was modern, but it was a long silk velvet trench coat in this beautiful, like, silver color, like a darker silver gray gunmetal color. And it was also silk velvet, and it was gorgeous. I bought it back in the 90s for like the price of a rent payment. I saved up so I could buy this gorgeous coat, and I wore it until it was pretty much falling apart, until it was pretty much falling off of me. And then I sold it to someone who had better tailoring skills than I did, because they could, repair it and get more life out of it. And I sold it to them for like, maybe 10 or 20 bucks, and I spent like $300 or $400 on that thing. It was gorgeous. I do sometimes miss that coat. Let's switch coats so we can see what the other one looks like on. And then you guys can tell me which one is your favorite. But this just feels luxurious. Like, I was reading some comments on a thread where someone was like, I always thought I hated velvet. I hated the way velvet felt until I found vintage velvet and felt real velvet. And it really does have a totally different feel. It's silky, it's luxurious feeling. It's not as, because I feel like polyester velvet sometimes can come off a little stiffer. But yeah, no, just has that incredibly luxe feel to it. But let's move on. And here is my other bright red this one is, I'm pretty positive 1950s. It's got the longer sleeves. There's still like a nice belled cuff with a little bit of black trim. And it has a really fancy decorative rhinestone button. Although I'm not sure if this was the original button. But yeah, this one has just the one button. And this one, I have no idea. The brand on this one is Hillman, New York. Something like that, yeah. No, Hillmore, New York is the brand on that one. I don't think this one had a fabric content label either. I'm not sure when that became standard. But again, it has like the same type of satiny lining, but this one is a cotton velvet, and cotton velvet is like, I guess it would be a velveteen. Is it velveteen? Because it's like a very low pile, but still a beautiful, beautiful coat. It does have side pockets here. Oh, there's a hole in one of them. I need to fix that. But you can see this one here. But you can see they're very similar in shape. This one just has more buttons. This one has the 3 buttons down the front. And this one also has this collar. I'm not sure what you would call this collar, but the collar is definitely different. So that's why I'm beginning to suspect maybe this one is a 60s velvet coat. Still gorgeous though, and it just feels so nice. But yeah, so these are my 2 velvet coats. This is my new velvet coat that I did not need. And I really shouldn't have been spending $69 on a coat I don't need, but I couldn't resist. But let me know what you think about my 2 velvet coats down in the description box below. And also, like I said, if you are more knowledgeable about vintage clothing pieces, what do you think? Do you think this one is probably more of a 60s coat Even though, like I said, at the antique store it said 50s, but now that I'm really looking at it, I'm feeling 60s on this one. This one I'm still definitely pretty sure it's 50s. Also, the other great thing about this find was it actually fits me, because you guys know I'm an extra large, and it's really hard to find vintage clothing that fits larges and extra larges. Normally it's all like tiny, tiny stuff. So that was another win on it. That was sort of my thing, was I was like, if it fits me, I'm buying it, and it fits me perfect. But yeah, so that's all I got for you guys today. Let me know what you thought about my velvet coats. Have some insight for me on this. Fashion history knowledge, please let me know down in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy this, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't enjoy it, of course you can give me a thumbs down, and please tell me all about it in the comments below. And please subscribe to the channel. And I hope everyone is just staying happy, healthy, and safe in this incredibly crazy world we're living in. And I will talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.